Hi, and welcome to CMO Journeys. I'm Christian Badak, and on the show, I talk with the marketing leaders behind some of today's most interesting brands. We get into their career paths, how they think about marketing, and how they work with agencies. Havas Creative Network is one of the major global creative networks inside of Havas, bringing together advertising, design, CX, content, influence, events, and more through its village model. Today's guest, Maggie Connors, is the Chief Marketing Officer, and she has spent her career at the center of agency growth, positioning, pitches, partnerships, and now the global marketing story for Havas Creative Network. Maggie, welcome to CMO Journeys.
Thank you so much, Christian. It's lovely to be here.
Yes, it's lovely to have you. So this is CMO Journeys, and I always like to kind of kick things off with the beginning. So I'd love to, know a little bit more about where did you grow up, what kind of kid were you, and would people have thought back then that you would become the CMO of a company like Havas?
What a great question to start off with. And I'm so excited to talk about journeys because I do believe, and everyone that works with me and knows me, I believe in the journey. I believe that it all makes sense at the end. And so, yeah, I would say that I think that I probably set out to be a CMO of an advertising agency. But way back when I was young, I just loved ads. I loved magazines. I loved ripping them out. I used to make these huge collages on my wall. And I don't even think I knew that was advertising, right? I just thought they were so beautiful, and it was different worlds and different stories, right? And I just fell in love with the medium of really print, right? And then you grow up and it's TV, and it's, the 80s and the 90s, and it was the heyday of all the wonderful advertising. And I was lucky enough to study art in a very, very small town, Burlington, Vermont. I went to the University of Vermont, and I studied art. And one thing led to another, and I found a small advertising agency in Burlington called Kelleher Sametz Volk, and they're still in existence. I actually met a leader from there just a couple months ago, and I got an internship my senior year in college. And I worked in the studio. I was an art buyer. I was in a mechanical person who built the mechanicals by hand. For those of you that remember that, I'm aging myself, but that's actually what we did.
Oh.
And I learned the craft, of advertising and branding and visual storytelling. And I just fell in love with it. And one thing led to another that sort of launched me into my, advertising career from that point. But yeah, I think that I was a child of advertising. And I'll say one fun story for those of you that are in my generation. If you remember the show 30 something, do you remember the show 30 something, Christian?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm aging
So,
myself now too, apparently.
right? Michael and Elliot ran an advertising agency. And so I remember watching that show with my mom and being so obsessed with it. And so I think it had a little influence. So I'll say thank you to those on ABC or whatever network that was on back then for inspiring me about the world of advertising into that first internship moment. So
Sure. Very cool. Yeah, 30 something. Oh, I have not thought about that in quite some time. So very good. So people, it sounds like, would have saw you in this path, but what is something maybe in your early life that people today that know you would not expect about you?
Oh my gosh. Let's see, something that people would not expect about me. Well, I'm an only child, but I actually have over 25, 26 first cousins. So when you meet me and my mom, we're like a very, very close and very tight unit. But I come from a massive, Italian and Irish family. So yeah, I'm an only child with a lot of cousins that I pretend are my brothers and sisters.
Sure. I was always jealous. I didn't have a whole lot of cousins. I was always jealous. And the ones I did, I was a lot older then. So I'm a little
It's
envious
fun.
of there. Yeah.
It's fun. It keeps it entertaining. That's for sure.
Sure. So you mentioned, you actually studied art, and obviously now I've moved more into agency leadership and growth roles. I'm curious, do you still think of yourself like someone who came up close to the creative process?
It's a great question. And I will say I'm still close to the creative process every day. It's actually what I love most about it. And I think, again, starting out in the studio and in art buying and building with my hands, right? I then graduated up into working at my first technically Havas job at Arnold in Boston, which is so near and dear to my heart. And, we learned the craft of advertising on drivers wanted with Volkswagen, right? Like I was so serendipitously lucky to work on the launch of the new Beetle, the launch of the Passat, right? Like that, those early days, everyone remembers the Jerry Garcia crying bus, right? Like that was the world that I was in, and it was all about the craft and the creative. So I still say this today. I am a brand girl. I am a storytelling brand girl at heart. We live in a world now that is so important and front and center, but sometimes it can feel not so much, right? We're talking about, MarTech, and we're talking about, automation, and we're talking about AI every second of the day and using AI every second of the day. And sometimes that craft and that brand love can be overlooked. And even today, I always double down on the creative moments. I always double down on making certain that that story is brought to life in anything that the group is putting out into the world. And I still believe in it. I still believe that that's actually what matters in this industry, is that idea. I mean, drivers wanted, they brought it back this year. That's how good it is. They brought it back,
Sure.
right? So it matters.
Yeah, when you look back at those campaigns that you had mentioned, how do you think those experiences are really shaping how you view integration today?
It's a great question, and integration has become so interesting and complicated. But there's such new opportunity in it, and I will say, Volkswagen. And recently, I had the opportunity to see Liz Van Zura again, who's now the CMO of Solo Stove, but she was our CMO on Volkswagen, and she and I had such a nice visit. And we were remarking and sort of, remembering how integrated we were on Volkswagen, and then therefore on Truth and other Arnold accounts that we had during that time. It was really the heyday, and we were integrated before integration was a thing. And it matters for the experience of the story, but the experience of the person, right? And the experience that they have with your brand as you pull them through. You have to connect each dot, and it seems so simple and it seems so obvious, but it's how I was taught. And so as I've gone through the decades and thought about how we connect people and connect those experiences with a brand or a campaign, that has always been front and center. And when we think about new business and we think about growth and we think about our clients, that comes into every strategy or every activation or every marketing idea that we have as a team. It's not in isolation, right? This is a very, it's a kaleidoscope that you have to put together in a very specific way to make it feel big and feel like a real story you want to get involved in. So I love those early days that I was blessed to have at Arnold, that taught me that, and again was a huge part of that teaching. So
Sure. So at some point, though, you moved from being close to the work into more leading new biz and growth. Was that a
yeah.
natural move for you, or did it feel like a leap at the time?
It definitely felt natural. It was a really fun progression from I worked in a group under Volkswagen called the Arnold Brand Promotion Group, and we had to pitch additional scope over and over again. It was experiential, like the ocean spray cranberry bogs and the Touareg Ironman sponsorship, like all the additional experiential things. I worked in there for a while, so I got used to pitching. I got used to putting ideas in front of clients that they hadn't bought yet, and I loved it. I loved the process of putting the people together. I loved the team camaraderie. I loved starting with a blank piece of paper. So I did that for some time, and one thing led to another, and I got to start leading new business out of the New York office of Arnold, working closely with Lisa Unsworth in Boston, and I just got the bug. I got the bug. And I think as growth people, I'm sure you've heard this before, and those that are listening, if you are a growth person, you understand this. You have that gene. We are very specific animals, and we love we love the win, we love the fight of it, we love the game of it, but we really can't get enough. So I started to run a new business for Arnold New York in about 2006. And I did that closely with Lynn Power, who was the CEO at the time and a wonderful mentor to me. And we had such an amazing run for a very long time. So I was at Arnold for almost collectively 17 years,
Wow.
which was wild. And I feel like I had 100 jobs in that time, but all of them just really amazing and have built my journey, right, and built the toolbox that have given me sort of my point of view and my ethos in this world, in this
Sure.
industry.
Yeah. So, in looking into your background, it looks like several of the roles that you had, you were responsible for agency positioning, pitch conversion, growth, etc. Was there ever a moment that felt like real pressure to prove that your new process or your new positioning was actually going to work?
Yeah. So when I started at Deutsch, so Pete Vavat was our CCO at Arnold. He went to Deutsch LA, and I had left Arnold and I went to JWT, RIP, JWT for a while, and I was working on global models and more operations of growth, which was a wonderful addition to all of the brand and integration work that I had done at Arnold for all those years. And so I loved the operations of a pitch, and I love the operations of new business, and I love the connectivity of a network. And so leaving JWT and coming to Deutsch, um, they didn't really work like that, right? Like, not in a bad way. They just didn't really need a big operations. They were just sort of like doing it, piece by piece, pitch by pitch. And so I came in and I started this new team. And I had people that were just prospectors. I had a designer that reported directly to me that was only in charge of growth content, right? That was like never heard of before, right? And so you come in and you have this, vision in your head. And I'm sure this happens with a lot of people when they transition into a new role, bringing your toolbox with you. And you're like, oh, I have all these gifts now. Let's do them. And everyone's like, what are these? Is this going to
Sure.
work? And so at Deutsch specifically, it was really a wonderful time because it took probably like a year or so, but then suddenly we had this operational system of the pitch process that just it was like a symphony. It just sung, right? Like everyone knew their place. Everyone we always joked and still joke. We could do the thing where we're like, oh, do the thing and the thing, and they're like, got it. Like you don't even need to use words anymore. It's like a well-run restaurant. Right. I grew up on a bar stool. My mom ran restaurants forever. And so like the restaurant analogy is something I use a lot. Like everyone knows their place. Everyone knows what system goes first and second and third. And it just becomes this symphony. And what was great about it is that you're able to focus more on the work and more on the ideas because all that stuff just takes care of itself. And so there was a lot of pressure though. I remember we had our first pitch at Deutsch, and I, had only been there maybe for like, 2 or 3 months trying to build this. And it did not go well. I'll just say that it did not go well. It was not a symphony. People were like, in the wrong places and what have you. But, you start to perfect it. You figure out what your A team is and, sort of perfect it as you go and optimize as you go. And it worked. But those first couple months, Christian, I was really nervous. Valda Fibo, who I love, who was our CEO at the time, I thank her because she gave me a lot of leash and had a lot of trust in me that we were going to get it right, and we did, and we won, Reebok and DraftKings and ABI, and had just like a really amazing run, working with Pete Vavada, as I mentioned, and Pete Johnson, and all my favorites. So that was one time that I definitely was sweating though.
Yeah, yeah, ooh, yeah. I've been in that seat before, so I
Yes,
relate. You're giving
yes,
me flashbacks here.
exactly.
So you mentioned a few mentors, people that really influenced you over the years. I'm curious if there's one person in particular or one piece of advice one of those people gave you that really is still influencing and involved in some of the decisions you're making today.
Yeah, I have been so incredibly blessed with a lot of really strong women leaders in my life and male leaders as well. But, one in particular, Lynn Power, was such an advocate of mine through the years at Arnold. She was such a great partner, and I think, collectively, if I think of all the mentors that I've had, I think one thing that has stood out about all of them is that they're very selfless and it's never about them, right? And it's something that I talk with our team here about a lot. And I really truly believe that this makes a difference between a successful team and a not successful team. My job is not about me, right? My team's job is not about them. Their job is about me. And my job is about them. And it's a give and take, and it's a giving and receiving relationship. And if you can create that camaraderie and create that trust and create that, we are going to truly hold hands and I'm going to help you be the best version of yourself. And that's what Lynn Power did for me. Then everything else works itself out, right? And you grow and you listen and you flourish together. And so again, I just am so blessed to think back to all of the mentors that I've had, and all of them have had that same thread. So
That's
I'm very grateful.
yeah, that's great. And it sounds like, you from some of the stories you've already started to tell us that you're doing the same thing back to your team.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that's great. So let's talk a little bit about today. You have
Yeah.
become the Chief Marketing Officer after already serving as the Global Marketing and Brand Officer. So I'm curious, what
Yep.
changed when that CMO title became official?
Yeah. Well, growth is so interesting now, right? Back in the day, we could just pitch and pitch and pitch and pitch, and it's what you did for decades, and you get 90% of your book from that, right? But it's all so different now. Marketing, and I'm using marketing with like a big M, is so exciting, and there's so much more opportunity when it comes to conferences, events, how we're meeting clients, how we're putting our story out, how we're using LinkedIn, how we're using social, right? Really how we're activating the Havas story, not just in the press and comms, although that's important as well, but how we're out in the world and how we're taking part of the conversation. And so one of the things that we've been building with my partner in crime, Tracy Barber, who's our Chief Transformation Officer, who's also just like the most epic mentor, in my toolbox of mentors. So amazing. But she and I, over the last couple of years, have been building a much stronger marketing muscle here at Havas that can lift everyone up. And so a couple of those, gifts that we're giving the network are things like activation of conferences and events in a way that actually creates action, not just you're attending and shaking strangers' hands, but you're actually having one-on-one discussions with clients. We're doing pre and during and post activation on socials and LinkedIn. So we're creating buzz around it to help them. We're picking panels and picking topics that lead to our key thought leadership topics, right? And also highlight our key leaders in the markets, whether it's Sarah Collinson at Havas, New York, George Sargent at Arnold, Kat Ott in Chicago, Anson at Battery, Jamie at Camp and Can't, and go on and on. But, we're building this machine that can take all of our stars of the network and allow them to flourish in a way that's just a little bit more turnkey than maybe it's been in the past. Marketing sometimes is that thing that the new business people do on the side when they don't have a pitch. And what we've tried to do is actually make it much more front and center in how we're attracting clients and how we're growing and how we're perceived in the market. And so we have a handful of things, that we do. Partner alliances are a big part of what we believe also help. So Jim Stengel is a really important partner to Havas. He just got a wonderful award at the Lions, the Laureate Award, which is about all of his service that he has done to the Cannes Lions, which is tremendous. So we partner with people like Jim on inviting clients in and having really interesting discussions around what is legacy, what's branding, what's AI going to do to our industry, right? Whatever it might be. So we do marketing with the big M. We do partner alliances. We do classic CRM. I mean, it literally is classic CRM at times. So we're building this machine that can scale and that can give the world a story of Havas that's really modern and new.
Sure, sure. So I'm curious, you mentioned a lot on the marketing side.
Yeah.
When you're in a major pitch or an RFP process, I'm curious, how involved are you still personally? Are you at all still helping shape the story or define any
Yeah.
strategic angles, or how does that participate, or how do you participate in those types of opportunities, if at all?
Yeah, no. What's great is that the way that the team is now, right? We have activation of all the active pitches that come in across the network. And so we have leaders in CX, we have leaders globally, we have leaders in the region, and we really do talent to task. And we bring in people that will be perfect for the business ask and the business need that the client has at that time, and also the expertise. Right now, the expertise across the board is so varied, and the beauty of the village model is that we have all of those people. So I help with story. I lead, the talent resourcing and helping to find the right people, and really just talking about how Havas can show up at every touch point, and at every step of the pitch process, and then the pitch team will activate the
Yeah.
actual pitch. Yeah.
Sure, sure. So you mentioned a little bit about this already, but Havas has already a clear story around growth powered by desire
Yeah.
and the village model and converged AI. I'm curious, like, what is the pressure on you now? Is it to sharpen that story, to prove the story, or maybe make people believe it more? Like, and what does that look like in process?
Are you saying that growth people have a lot of pressure, Christian? Is that what you're saying?
Just a bit.
So, most days, but good pressure. Listen, I think that growth powered by desire, we really do believe, and this goes back to what I was saying about creative and brand and that sort of love that people have for brands being front and center in everything that we do at Havas, and front and center for me, which is why I'm at Havas. And desirability is actually what grows business, right? You cannot grow a business if people are not in the hunt for you, or put you top of list when they need to buy something or experience something or put something in their life. And so, growth powered by desire is something that we've evolved over the last while, and it's officially launched this year. It was our platform for Cannes, and we have an amazing new piece of research called The Science of Desire. And it talks about these growth levers. And so our job as growth people across the network, and my job from an influence standpoint and making certain I'm supporting all the growth leaders in this manner, is to take not only the tools that we have, Converged AI, all the new media tools and all the new creative production tools that we have, like Vermeer from our wonderful partners at Pop, at Pros on Pixels, our production group, but to overlay that with the creativity that creates this desire. And so our job is to make certain that that's front and center, and then that's meaningful to the client and meaningful to the business challenge that they're having today, right? Or the brand aspiration that they have, right? And I think so often in this day and age, we can get caught up in our own stuff, right? Like everybody can, businesses,
Yep.
people, and what have you. It's all so busy, but we have to listen. And you asked me right before this about agency and client relationships, and I think the most important thing is to listen and to ask the right questions and to really have empathy for the clients in terms of what they're going through from a business standpoint. What are their challenges? What keeps them up at night? The classic question. But like, really truly, like, what does success look like to them, and how can we help them on their journey with their brand and with their business? So the elevations of desirability, converged, and then the village is the support, I think gives us such an amazing and robust toolbox to use for clients.
Yeah, yeah. You mentioned a number of channels and events and things that you're leveraging. I'm curious, like, what has been most effective for you lately? Is it the thought leadership? Is it outbound? Is it those events, awards,
Yeah.
relationships, and with analysts? Like, where are you seeing the most traction?
Yeah. It's interesting. I think that we're finding a lot of success, and frankly a lot of joy and synergies with our partners. I think, what I loosely call the partner alliance. That's something that's been really meaningful. It broadens your network, it broadens your point of view, it broadens your aperture, it broadens the people that are brought into this home of Havas. So that's something that's been really meaningful. And I also think that, you know, listen, I think we can stand up and have many credential meetings, and we do every day, right? But we love sitting across the table from a client and, having a drink and a cocktail and just saying, how can we help? Like, Simple as that. How can we help? So anything that allows us to authentically just have a conversation with the client is what we seek and what we are after. We do all the tools, like I said, and all the things, but it's really about the people. I just want to hear their story and ask how we can help.
Yeah, yeah. You mentioned some of those tentpole moments like
Mhm.
Cannes, and I know you guys
Yeah.
have done things at South by Southwest and CES, and obviously you're part of a big global network, and I'm sure a lot of companies are coming directly to you because they want to do business with you or
Yeah.
want to learn more about you. But I'm curious, like for maybe more of a proactive growth standpoint, how are you breaking into the right companies maybe before there's a formal pitch or an RFP or to those companies that might not be reaching out to you, but would be a really good fit for yourselves.
Yeah. And I think, this is where the funnel and some of the CRM tactics really, take hold. But I think, listen, like any business, we have our targets and we have our prospects and we have our aspirations of the types of clients and the types of brands that we would love to work with. And then I think it's a matter of us creating those networks, creating those alliances, leveraging the conferences and events and our trade partners, right, to get in front of the right people so that, as I just mentioned, we can have conversations, right? And so we strategically, without giving too much away, we strategically put our plans together. But it's a kaleidoscope, and I think I've used that word prior when I was talking about integration, but it is truly a kaleidoscope because everything changes week to week, right? I think it was just OpenAI who said that their plans only go 4 weeks at
Yeah,
most, right? And it's a little bit like that now too, right? And sometimes you trip over a rock where you're like, oh wow, look at that opportunity, I didn't see that coming, and this is amazing, and then you grab onto that. So it's about flexibility, it's about being in the right place at the right time, and it's about having good people around you that trust you and trust Havas,
yeah,
right? People around us that trust Havas, that work with us, that know us, that are friends with us, that are aligned with us, can help us meet the next best client. So
yeah, yeah. And how do you think about like what does the operating model look like there? Is it a central team? Are there like local market teams? Shared tools and playbooks, some combination. Like, talk to us a little bit about what that makeup looks like.
yeah, I mean, I think the great thing about Havas, as I said, with the village, is that we have many different flavors of ice cream. But we have our foundation. Converge.ai is our foundation of how we operate across the funnel from creative to strategy to media to production. All run now with many, many, many tools, and we'll continue to do so with AI and technology. And so, yeah, we have, it's both the support and the heroing the brands like Arnold, like BETC, like Camping King, like Battery, right? Like Republica, heroing those brands, is that a word? While at the same time supporting them from the village standpoint, where they can scale faster than if it was just them alone.
Yeah, got it. And we mentioned AI,
Mhm.
and I'd be remiss if I didn't say a little bit more. But a lot of agencies I talk to, they're scared about AI because they are hearing that certain functions maybe are being brought in house because brands are starting to use AI to replace people. And I'm curious, like from your perspective, where do you think maybe AI will replace some agency services, and maybe where it will never?
Yeah. Oh my God, it's such the question that's asked every hour on the hour right now, right? And listen, I think there's a lot that has been taken off our plate even in the last 6 months with AI that I never would have dreamed. We just recently, just being transparent, we're talking a lot about research, right? Research of our industry, research of the clients, research of the brands we want to, go after. And research that used to take us, 3 or 4 days manually takes like 15 minutes now. Right. So even just something as simple as that, and I'll give a shout out to our partners at Waldo, you know, over a year and a half ago, they came to us and they really, were champions of this before it was like a thing in terms of automating all that AI research for prospecting and for pitching. And so I think things like that will 100% continue to grow and optimize, but it's not person for person, right? I think you just deploy people to different things that are actually more strategic, right? And I call them like HVTs to the team, high value tasks,
Hmm.
right? Let's not spend time cutting and pasting a deck for 5 hours. Let's just have Claude do that. Instead, let's really research what's going on with, X company and why they may not be doing well so that we can have a great conversation with them when we have lunch with them next week, right? So it's like more focus on the high value tasks and having people that really own that sort of strategic elevation, I think is going to be the shift. And then the tactical things get automated like that. So
Yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah.
what I
It's
see.
interesting times. We'll definitely see
Interesting
how
time.
things.
I'm there for all of it, by the way. I will take any hack. I will take any idea. I will try anything once. So I'm like bringing on. I say this to the team, like, what else can we try? What else can we figure out? If something irks me because it's taking too long, I always ask myself, can AI do this?
Absolutely.
And usually the answer is yes.
Yes, I would agree with that. Yes, you got to stay curious. You can't be scared of these
Exactly.
things. So,
Exactly.
well, this has been good. I know we talked a lot of business, here.
All good.
I do, as we kind of wind things down, want to ask a question about your personal life a little bit. So, outside of work, when you're not, solving, all the world's problems here, what's something that gives you energy or helps you reset yourself?
Oh, I love that question. Well, number one, my husband John. So my husband John and I have been married for 17 years, and he is the most hilarious person I know. And we have three beautiful puppies. And we live in Long Island, and we enjoy our friends and barbecuing in the summer and hosting. We're like always hosting. It's like our superpower, and we love it. So it's been nice with the nice weather over the last couple weeks to have everyone over for burgers and dogs. And we love to travel. We love to go to Nantucket, and it's pretty simple, to be honest with you. It's just good friends, good family, and good dogs.
Yeah, yeah. That sounds great. Yeah, and I know after a busy work week in the agency space, your hair is on fire half the time. Sometimes that's what all you want is just a nice
That's exactly right.
reset. Yeah,
Just want to come home and have all my puppies jump right on me and put my feet up, and that's what I
yeah,
do.
awesome. Maggie, this has been great. I really appreciate the conversation, the insights that you shared.
Yeah,
To
of
everybody
course.
that's watching, don't forget to follow CMO Journeys for more conversations with the marketing leaders that are shaping what's next. I'm Christian Badak. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode.